Welcome, everybody, to the show.
And what show is that?
Lighting the way,
Yes?
Granny Raps and Rocks,
Yay.
and we broadcast every,
Wednesday night, 6:30 p.m. Pacific.
which is what it is right now. And tonight, the topic is I finally got COVID, but I'm still here. Why is that? Why am I even doing this show? Why am I not in bed where I belong?
Really?
Well, it's a good question.
By the way, who are you?
I am Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Coughing Rocks.
Coughing up a fit, Rock.
I am not doing well.
Yes. And this
Jamesy,
is James Maynard, otherwise known as Sweet Baby James,
right,
otherwise known as the man who handles the chat.
the man who was missing last Thursday
I
night
know.
because of COVID.
COVID got me.
It did. But anyway, so the question is, why am I doing this show tonight? Well, because there's a lot of painful things going on in our world today, and we can't deny it, and I'm pretty angry about it. Not that I want to be angry. I would much rather be serene. I think you have the voice. Yes, the voice is on, right. I want to be serene, and usually I am pretty serene, but um, there are, it's just getting to me, one thing after another, you know? And I don't mean to be partisan, but boy, now the latest is that there are certain Republican states that are trying to remove no fault divorce.
Right.
And that would make it much harder for women to get out of abusive relationships, whether they're physically abusive or emotionally abusive. And it just looks like it's one thing after another for women.
Do you want to mention the one about the South Carolina
Yes.
representative?
Yes, the South Carolina that thinks that women should get the death penalty for having an abortion at any time, under any circumstance, even if their life is at stake.
Right.
I mean, you know, okay, you may not like the abortion as it was. You might not like, gays having a chance to express themselves and be out in the open, or trans people. You might not like uh, women not having 10 children, but I understand that there's a bill now, I believe it's in Texas, to really reward couples who stay together and have 10 children. Like, that's what we really need on this
Oh,
planet.
they're modeling that after Putin.
Oh, did they?
Oh, Putin rewards women. They've offered that to women in Russia. That if you have 10 children or more, you'll be a hero of the revolution and you'll be supported by the government.
Absolutely, and you'll be barefoot and pregnant the whole time.
That's right.
So what do
Yes,
we have
Amy
there?
is here. And she says, "Hi, Beth and James. I know what you mean about how frustrating things are, especially for women."
That's right. Not to speak of all the minorities. I mean, when gerrymandering is set in stone and is possible that they're doing it simply for political purposes. I mean, what has gone? And now they're trying to bring the Ten Commandments into the classroom. I guess they don't know that it's not a Christian country.
Right, right. No, there's got to be a separation of church and state.
Well, not anymore, evidently.
Well, it's still in the Constitution and the Supreme Court's history.
Yeah, but look at the Supreme Court. Anyway,
Anyway, we have a couple more people who've come on board. Todd says hello, Beth and James, and sends caring and lots of musical notes. Thank you, Todd. And Elizabeth says hello and sends love, a heart of love. Thank you, Elizabeth.
so it's I find it kind of scary. You know, I, as you have heard before. I'm 78 years old now. And so when I grew up, you could not get a legal abortion. Uh, and I was going to have to go to a bar room in Pennsylvania to get an abortion. But I was saved from that by the fact that my health was so poor that I had a miscarriage.
Hmm.
And also, there was no way you had to have an at fault divorce in New York State. New York State, right? And so you had to prove somebody committed adultery, right? I ended up going to Mexico to get a divorce. You know, this stuff, and it wasn't safe to be gay. Who knew there were even trans people at that time? You know, it was like so buried underground. Yes, I do agree. Drag queens shows are definitely the biggest problem we have on this planet,
Oh
right?
my God, so very, very dangerous.
So dangerous. So really, really dangerous. So anyway, I know I'm irritating and turning off some of my ardent supporters.
Oh, wait. We
Yes.
have another comment here. Island says, it's about taking a stand. Do we support equality, diversity, compassion, and caring for each other? Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. That's right, Island. And there is, it looks
And
like.
Amy says, yes, the rights of so many people are at major risk. But it's always good to see your lovely faces.
Oh, thank
Two
you.
hearts of love.
Oh. So, in other words, don't you think this is worth getting out of bed for? I don't know. Not that I feel like I can make a difference, but I'm just showing up. And it's like Island says, it's about taking a stand, even though it's miserable. You know, God knows what they're going to pull next. I can't believe some of the stuff.
Yeah.
The death penalty for a woman who has an abortion at one day. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
just, it's crazy. This is so pro-life, right? Really, but women's lives don't matter at all. So I'm just horrified that this could be happening in my own time. And that, you know, this thing about being a Christian nation, I thought we had gotten over that,
Right.
right? Right? You know, I grew up, there was a lot of anti Semitism at the time,
Oh, yeah.
but at least it wasn't constitutional.
Right.
You know what I mean? And oh, and of course, the Equal Rights Amendment was defeated yet again. And are you beginning to notice a trend? It seems like women across the planet are being squelched and attacked. I mean, whether it's Iran, no matter where you are, you can see the rights of women have been taken away. And I like to say, well, that's over there, and I don't have to worry about that. Well, you know, over there is over here. And I feel like, you know, instead of adjusting policies to make them more equitable, if there are some inequities in the way things have been, we turn them around and just push women back into the home where we obviously belong.
I don't think so.
You know,
If you had been shoved back into the home instead of developing yourself, you wouldn't be doing this show.
that is so true. That is so true. Now, I had some men in my life who wanted to shove me back into the home, who were furious that I showed up as smarter than they were. Couldn't stand it. Yes. But
Island has another comment. The autocrats are using division to gain power. They are dangerous.
you are so right, Island. That is just the point. And we are so stupid that we let ourselves be divided and conquered. It just happens. Because it's like, oh, well, that's not my fight, but that isn't my fight. Well, then this isn't my fight. Well, then this is, you know, then it's everybody's fight, you know. It's like you saw with the Nazis. It's very frightening. And book burning and banning and all of that, I'm finding it pretty scary. But the most important thing is Hunter Biden's laptop. I still don't get what the whole Hunter Biden's laptop thing is about. Every time I read it, I fall asleep. And it's not just because I have COVID. So, anyway, I'm here because I'm not giving up without a fight. And I don't know what I can do, but I want to talk about it. And I don't want to polarize and I don't want to scapegoat other people or be mean. But the fact is that white men are really trying to prevail. Like, oh, I am so sorry, guys, that you feel diminished. You know, is the only way that you can feel empowered is to diminish others?
That's historically been the pattern, but I think it's a little too late now. There are more women graduates of medical school than there are men. There are more graduates of law school who are women than are men.
Yeah.
Women are coming into their own. Whether or not the Equal Rights Amendment ever gets passed, women are making their way more and more. Besides, the thing is it's one thing to have a fringe extreme person do this or that or stand for this or that, but when it comes down to elections and where do the independents stand, where's the middle of the road stand? It's not where the extremes are.
Well, wherever they're standing, these bills are getting passed
in state legislatures.
in state legislatures, which have been taken over. Now, you're entitled to have your own opinion on anything. I'm not trying to take that away from you. I just don't want your opinions to trump my life. You don't have a right to tell me how to live my life. I don't have a right to tell you how to live yours. You want to be evangelical or Christian or Muslim or Jewish or whatever it is, more power to you. Do it. But don't take away my right to be Hindu or atheist or spiritual, but not religious. I mean, whatever. I don't want the 10 Commandments in every classroom. I mean, I know that's a shocking thought, but that's not part of the Constitution. Thou shalt put the 10 Commandments. And okay, also, God help us. We enthrone gun rights.
Mm-hmm.
We should have an equal gun amendment. That would pass with flying colors, right? Everyone is entitled to carry a gun at any time. In fact, they're lowering, some of the states are suggesting that they lower the age. But when you can even carry a gun, you don't need permits, you don't need to just walk around. And of course, people are being killed. You know, there's blood on hands. You know, we need to think very seriously about what we're proposing. We need to wake up to the consequences. This is not a game. You know, this is not a game about getting either Donald Duck or DeSantis elected. It's not a game. It wasn't a game when a handful of Republicans, kind of a growing handful, tried to negate the election.
The election of 2020, that's right.
You know?
They stormed the Capitol building, the Senate.
Right, they killed
and
people.
They killed people, and they stopped the process of counting the ballots temporarily.
And it goes on. And
Eileen has another comment. Religiosity and pseudo-Christianity are one of their tactics.
well, exactly. You know, why don't you just cloak yourself in something that makes you look like you're defending us? And but who's going to stop them? I mean, that is really the question. If you take away people's power to vote, which is happening, and by the way, if you live in a so-called blue state and you don't agree with what people are saying, well, then you are invited to stand up and make your case. You know,
Sure.
just don't go around storming everybody with a rifle or an AK, whatever they call it, AK-15. You know, there is so much violence. This is violence, guys. This is not politics. This is about suppression of people in order to keep other people in power, whether they are political people who are using these things. I mean, we all know that Trump had no morality whatsoever, was perfectly willing to grope women or humiliate women or apparently even rape women, and that he was also willing to use devious tactics to not pay his fair share of taxes and all of that stuff. Well, see, I'm sorry. That's illegal. And in exchange for being that way, he was giving the religious rights people on the courts. Now, look at that. Isn't that the height of hypocrisy? If you believe in something, go out, fight for it, and do it. But if you're just doing it to get power for yourself, to gather up the votes for you, that sucks. I don't care whether you're a demagogue on the left or on the right or somewhere in between. Using people's feelings and emotions in order to gain power for yourself and sell everybody out is just not acceptable.
Muhammad has something here. Violence to anything is no way acceptable.
Right on. Exactly. Violence is no way acceptable, whether it's verbal violence. I can't stand looking at the news. Why? Because everything is so-and-so slammed so-and-so, and so did this. There's so much violence in the rhetoric, but I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just saying, what are we going to do? You know, I don't, you know, it's like, are we going to lie down and are we going to accept it? Are we going to continue to watch it happening? Am I going to say, oh, my life, I'm too busy. You know, I'm too busy to worry about these things. I'll leave that to the younger people or to the healthy people or to the white people or the black people or the Hispanic people.
Muhammad adds, treat every person fairly, gently, and in an acceptable manner.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we agree.
We do. We do. And that is so important. So I can't stand it either when people like on MSNBC write vile things about the other side.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand that either. I don't even want to watch it. That is treating people violently. I'm with you. I think it's important. So what can we do right now? What can we do in this very second? Well, the first thing that we can do is feel each other's support. It's like, I make a commitment not to be violent.
Yeah, I make a commitment not to be violent.
And that includes the people who are legislating out in discrimination.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be violent towards them. I can say this is wrong. It's an assault on women. It's keeping women down. But I'm not going to say, you are blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to have a picture of myself with Marjorie Taylor Greene with a rifle to her head. You know, I mean, I'm not going to do that. So the first thing is I make a pledge to not be violent.
And Muhammad adds, live peacefully.
Live peacefully. So we have to be peaceful in order to live peacefully.
And support peacefulness.
That's right. So, okay, so those people who all hung up in the beginning of the show because you thought that I was going to say, get the bums out. Well, I'm not saying get the bums out. I'm saying I think this is bad. And I'll tell you why. Because it's oppressive to women, to minorities, and ultimately, uh, it's going to destroy our nation. It's going to destroy our souls. As I said, I grew up in a time where it was just like this. You know, it was just like this. Women had virtually no rights. I got raped. I went to the police. I mean, I got raped more than once, but I got raped with a knife at my head, and I went to the police, and I was tied up with electrical wire and blindfolded, and the police asked me if I had struggled. And then I said, how could I struggle? First of all, I'm very ill. You know, I've always been weak. But I was tied up, you know, and blindfolded and gagged. But other than that, I had no problems. And the dude is there with a knife, and it was a scary moment. And they said, better to have died. I literally mean that. The police said to me that it would have been better for me to have died than to have allowed myself to be raped. Like I could stop it. This guy came in my window, you know what I mean, and overpowered me in the middle of the night. But it would have been better for me to have died. Well, I guess so.
I
You
don't
know,
agree.
no, you know,
And no, I don't think any of our listeners agree with
no.
that.
I think you know, this is the kind of thing that I was subjected to, and worse, from the police.
Oh, and Mohammed has another comment. We must respect one another, irrespective of religion, caste, color, and creed.
Absolutely. Even if you're in the police, I need to have compassion for the police officers. I don't want to be then prejudiced towards the police because of the terrible way they treated me when I was raped. And it's a long story what happened and how badly I was treated. Not only by them, but by everybody. Because those were the days, guys. You know, it was hard. I mean, women really essentially had no rights. It was the early
And if you were
60s.
raped, they suspected you. Like,
Oh,
what did
yeah.
you do to encourage them?
Yeah. Well, I was there in bed. Well, I guess that was it.
Really?
So, and then what was worse was that the guy sat next to me for like 3 hours and he talked to me. And it turned out that he was looking for a relationship with me. He was lonely, he was sad, he was miserable. I felt compassion for him, right? How could I not? Right? I could
Well,
feel.
that's the kind of girl you are.
And it's very scary. I was afraid. I was shaking. I mean, I was literally shaking like a leaf. I had my nightgown over my head. And here's this guy that is kind of unstable, has me in his power, and he sits there and he's talking to me. And he told me the story of his life, and it was awful. And I felt compassion for him. And then when I went to the police, they asked me if he was black. Well, I knew he was black because I could tell from our conversation, by the story of his life, by his hair texture. And, well, they said to me, if I said that the guy was black, they would go and arrest every black man on the street that had a record, and this was in New York City in a very big street, and beat the shit out of them. So what was I supposed to say? Yes, he was black. So I said, I don't know. You know, of course I knew, but you know, how can I encourage or allow that kind of racist behavior towards anybody, even if he is a rapist?
Oh, by
What?
the way, Todd says about the way the police treated you. Let's see, after all this time, I've never heard that part of the story about the way the police treated you. Yeah. And he says, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then Muhammad adds, the police must be polite and helpful for the people.
Yeah. Well, they weren't. So anyway, oh yeah, and it got even better. the police came the next day, and they didn't take any fingerprints. This guy must have left fingerprints all over my apartment. I had to leave. I had to move because he said he was going to come back and give me back the money he stole from me, and which I said, don't bother. But anyway, they came back all dressed up. It was at the holiday season. Like, what were they dressed up for in these natty suits? Well, obviously, I must have been a loose woman. Anyway, see.
Oh, by the way, Mohammed says, I beg your pardon, but I am leaving the show as I am getting late for my school.
Oh, well, good for
Thank
you.
so
Come
much,
again.
Mohammed, for your
Please,
contributions to the show. We appreciate
please like the show, share the show,
that. Yeah.
come back and finish the show. Let's, not let these moments pass. So, anyway, I have so many stories about what it was like to be a woman in the day. And I had a physically abusive husband, and I had to go to Mexico by myself to get a divorce, to get away from him.
Whereas if we'd had no-fault divorce then, you could have just done it in New York.
Exactly. So let's not go back there, guys. Let's not go back there. It was the same thing, with abortion being illegal. It wasn't good. I'm not saying abortion is good, but illegal abortion is worse. And don't
And
think
dangerous.
that adoption is that easy. I was married to two men who had been adopted, and they were messed up. It was very hard on them. So, and then of course you can always add to the legion of neglected children.
Oh, here's a comment from
Yeah.
Amy. Says, even in the 80s, fellow female colleagues and I in a medical program chose not to report a professor who made sexually inappropriate remarks because we didn't want to hurt his career.
Ah,
How ridiculous is that?
oh my God, Amy. I grew up with the same kind of brainwashing. It was very hard for me to ever hold anybody accountable for what they did. So the first thing I want to do tonight is I want to say I don't want to go back. Even though it's not going to happen to me now, I don't expect to get raped anymore. And I'm not going to get pregnant, that is for sure.
And by the way, Amy also adds, not to mention that even if one is willing to put a child up for adoption, carrying a child can be fatal.
That is right. And can really destroy your life on an emotional level. I mean, let's not be naive about this stuff. So I'm saying, even though I don't intend to get a divorce from you, but you never know, right? I'm hoping not to get raped again. It was more than once, and violently. And I definitely am not going to get pregnant. But still, I can see this, and not only them. What about all these guys who are also involved in the woman's pregnancy? Look what can happen to their lives too. They're being forced to marry somebody. Look at, they couldn't
Child
pass
support
Oh,
for life.
a law to ban child marriage under, what was it, 14? You know what I mean? What is this? You know what I mean? What is going, and so for the guys too, it's no good for them, for the women and the guys, not to be able to get an abortion if that's their choice. Just say, butt out. Butt out. As people have pointed out, there is so much violence and sexual perversion in the Bible. I don't see you banning that book. Do you? Let's ban the Bible. It's not fit for children. I'm not saying we should ban the Bible. I'm saying it's ludicrous. We cannot orchestrate or legislate morality. what we have to do is make an effort to bring the light of awareness and consciousness into every conversation we have and into every question. And stop just taking sides blindly, but looking at what the situation is on all sides. Oh my God,
Our
it's
time is
7
up.
o'clock. Well, I didn't think I was going to make it till 7, and now I haven't stopped talking. All right, we have a group to go to. We have a
Yes, we
group
do.
right after the show. Okay, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, lighting the way, Granny Reps and Rocks, where we are talking about social change with higher consciousness,
Yes.
making the revolution from the inside out. And tomorrow night, we have magical improvs, which I hope to be able to do too. And hopefully James will be able to sing as well. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time. We love you. Please share this program, even if it's with people that you think are not going to like it. And please like it and love it and leave your comments, and I'll write to you later and all that good stuff. In the
Yes.
meantime, bye-bye for us.
Bye bye for now. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, indeed.